Hi, and welcome to OTC. I'm your host, Buddy1927. We're in episode 19, and we are doing the crew wrap-up. I promised you I would do this all in one episode, but there's so much information on the crew wrap-up, I need to actually do it in 2 episodes. I apologize, but since we got a lot of information to do, let's go on and let's get going. Okay, first section we are going to be going over is managing the skills and perks. We're going to be talking in this clip about delaying selection of the skill or perk. If you do not choose a skill or perk immediately after it becomes available, that crew member will nevertheless continue to gather experience and will apply storage experience to the proper skill or perk once the skill or perk has been chosen. This is beneficial when purchasing a new tank with 100% crew but not knowing what skills or perk will benefit it. You can play some battles with the crew before selecting the skill or perk. It can also be useful during retraining. If a crew member training level percentage for his role drops due to retraining, all experience earned will apply to restoring the training level of his major qualification until it reaches 100% again. However, any acquired skills or perks will not drop and will remain effective. Okay, the next section under managing skills and perks is the effect of secondary roles on skills or perks. Some vehicles require crew members to assume secondary roles in addition to other major qualifications. In a vehicle requiring a crew of only 2, a commander and a driver, the commander also fills the secondary role of the gunner, the radio operator, and the loader. In such cases, any skills or perks that otherwise would be available to the gunner, the radio operator, or the loader are now available to the commander. If the commander is moved to another vehicle where he no longer fills that secondary role, any skills or perk he has specifically trained for the secondary role becomes inactive. Now, I do have a video clip. Let's take a look at that. Okay guys, the reason why I brought you into my garage in World of Tanks is to help explain to you the secondary role that a crew member can take. Now, as you can see, I have brought up my T1 Cunningham. It has a crew of 2, the commander and the driver. Now, to run a tank you have to have 5 major qualifications. We have 2, the driver and the commander, but we're missing the gunner, the radio operator, and the loader. Because we are missing those 3 on this tank, someone on this tank is going to have to take over those roles. And in this case, those roles are actually taken over by the commander. He's now the commander, the gunner, the radio operator, and the loader. And what I'm going to do is pull open his personnel file. And I'm going to enlarge it so you can see this a little bit more clearly. And click on the skills tab, and as you can see, he still has the 4 common skills and perks that he can learn, and because he's also the commander, he can learn all the skills and perks that the commander can learn. Now, because he's also the gunner, he can learn all the skills and perks that the gunner can learn. Next, because he's also the radio operator, he can learn all the skills and perks that the radio operator can learn. And last but not least, because he's also the loader, he needs to learn all the skills and perks of the loader, or he can learn all the skills and perks of the loader. Now, you say, Buddy, you taught me that when I'm grinding my crews up and grinding down a Pacific tank line, that I need to take the crew out of one tank and put it into the next tank. What happens if my commander who's in the T1 Cunningham right now, I decide to have him learn situational awareness, and he gets 100% in that. What happens to that skill perk if the next tank there's a radio operator on it? I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to tell you. What happens is, if I decide to move this, he's learned 100% in situational awareness, and I decide to move the commander to a different tank, what happens is that skill now becomes inactive. it's not working at all because that on that tank there's a radio operator, and he can learn that skill or perk. The skill does not get dropped though. It just remains inactive. For it to become active again, I would have to move him back to the T1 Cunningham for that skill or perk to become active. Now, if you decide to keep him on that tank where there is a radio operator, you now have an inactive skill. You actually have an inactive skill. The only way you can change that is to drop your skills and perks. And then you decide how much of, and when you drop all your skills and perks. So you gotta retrain him in the skills and perks. Now, there's 3 different situations that you can run into where you do it for free, you do it for some credits, or you do it for gold. But if you do it for free or for some credits, you lose a percentage of all the skills and perks experience that you've had. Not just one, but if you have 4, you lose whatever percentage that you paid for it. Now, if you pay 200 gold, you keep all that 100% of that experience in the skills and perks. So, it's important to understand your crews, and it is also important what skills and perks for you to learn that crew. You gotta keep in mind one thing. If you have the option of radio operator, gunner, or loader, or in some cases a driver, I don't know where that is, but I think there's one tank where the commander is also the driver. But one of the things you gotta keep realizing when you're picking out your skills and perks is what you are in the future going to do with this crew member. If you're going to keep him permanently in the tank, like I am going to keep him permanently in the T1 Cunningham, because I do use the T1 Cunningham in team battles, I might learn radio situational awareness that the operator can learn. That's fine. But if in the situation where I'm going to end up moving him any which way, I'm only going to be concentrating on the commander skills and perks. Now, when deciding a skill or perk, figure out how long that person's going to be on that tank. If he's permanently going to be on that tank, then take the advantage of the different skills and perks that a person can learn. I hope this explains the secondary skills and perks for you. Okay, the next section we're talking about is dropping skills and perks. This is part 1. You can reset all the crew members' learned skills and perks. This allows you to change the crew members' skills or perks without having to start all over again with a new recruit. Now, it can be done for free, and you lose 20% of the total experience of the skills and perks. You can do it for some credits, and you lose 10% of those experience points for the skills and perks. Now, for 200 gold, you lose nothing. You don't lose any experience points at all. You retain 100% of the skills and perks that he has already learned. Since the first 2 options are based on total skills and perks experience, and the more skill and perks a crew member has, the more experience they have become. However, these options only reduce the crewman's skills and perks experience and does not take his role experience points into consideration. For example, if you have a crew member who just reached 100% in his major qualification, and you choose a skill or perk which has 0 training levels, and then immediately decide to change it, then that option free won't cost you anything, and you won't lose any experience. Now, part 2. Since each additional percentage point requires more experience than the one before, you can't just simply take 10 to 20% off the displayed training level percentage. Instead, you have to determine the crew's skills and perks experience points and take 10 to 20% off of that. Then you can use the number of skills and perks experience point remaining to determine what skills and perks training level will be after the reduction. Given the high cost, the expense of the credits of gold, it is clearly in your best interest to choose the skills and perks carefully in the first place. If retaining a crew member from a vehicle resulting in his training level dropping it below 100%, then subsequently resetting the skills and perks will automatically assign all free experience to the major qualification level training until he reaches 100% again. Any experience left over can then be reassigned to the skills or perks of your choice. Next, we're going to be talking about the training level in the next couple clips here. The training level for each of the crew member is progressively increased by the experience points or XP earned in each battle. Each crew member earns the same amount of XP for each battle that his vehicle does, plus or minus any applicable bonuses or penalties. The XP earned in the battle is applied first to the training level of the crew member in his major qualification until it reaches 100%. Next, all of the XP is then applied to the training level of his first skill or perk until he reaches 100%, and then the XP is applied to the second skill or perk, and so on. Next, we're going to be talking about purchasing increasing training level. There is no option to purchase an increase in the training level of the crew's skills or perks. Such can only be earned by battle experience. However, there are 3 options for purchasing increased training level in the major qualifications for any of the crew members. This can be accomplished at the original recruitment, by training, or at any time thereafter by retraining through the following methods. Okay, our next slide is experience required to increase training level. And this is a little bit complicated and I might confuse you a little bit. I just want to remind you that these PowerPoints are available on our NAFTA website. It's under media, under PowerPoint. This one is called episode 19 of OTC, but it will be a combination of episode 19 and 20, so you also will see what we'll be talking about next week. But let's go into this PowerPoint right here. It is important to recognize 2 factors about the amount of XP required to increase your training level. First, the total amount of experience required to achieve 100% training level in this first skill and perk is double that was required to increase your major qualifications to 100%. The doubling occurs each time with each of the skills or perks training levels. The second skill or perk requires 100%, doubles the amount of XP that is required from the first skill or perk. Now, the third one requires the double amount from the second skill or perk to increase the training level thereof. So basically, major qualifications from 0 to 100 requires a total of 105,242 XP. The first skill or perk from 0 to 100 requires a total of 210,484 XP. The second skill or perk from 0 to 100 requires 420,128 XP. And the third skill perk from 0 to 100 reaches the total of 840,255 XP, and so on. Now, I do have a little formula off to the right here, and I want to show you all that. Okay, the amount of experience required to increase the training level by increments of 1% can be calculated by using the following formula. XP for the next skill level percent plus 1 equals 2y times 25 times 100% of the current skill level 100%, where y is equal to 1, the increase of the training level of the major qualification. 2. The increase of the training level of this first skill or perk. 3. The increase of the training level of the second skill or perk. 4. The increase of training level to the third skill or perk, and so on. Remember, this is going to be on. You need to get this to understand get the PowerPoint to understand how this actually works. Okay, guys, here I have two experience point charts. The first one on the left shows how much experience you need to get for each of the major qualifications: the first skill or perk, the second skill or perk, or the third skill or perk. Now, the one on the right is the total experience you have earned. This from your major qualifications, your first skill or perk, and your second skill or perk. So as you can see on the chart, you have well over 700,000 experience points earned once you reach 100% in your second skills perks. So it is important to grind your crews on those tanks and see where to get the experience points up. One of the things that you might want to consider, if available, is a premium tank in that line, and actually take the crew off that tank and put it into your premium tank. This way you can, and make sure the accelerated crew is checked off, and this way you can actually gain more experience and help grind that crew up, because as you can see, it takes a lot of experience as you grind your skills and perks. Okay, guys, I apologize. This is where I'm going to stop right here. And in episode 20, we are going to continue our wrap up of the cruise. One of the things I like to make sure what I'm doing is trying to keep these episodes short, so you can watch the whole episode in one sitting. So I apologize. I told you all that I would do this all in one episode, and when I was researching, I found out there's a lot more information that we need to cover to wrap up the cruise. So I'd like to thank you again for watching this OTC episode, and do me a favor, save some tanks on the battlefield for me. Y'all have a good day.